They called me the dumb one, not behind my back, not in whispers. To my face, at the dinner table, in front of relatives, in front of my friends, my own mother would laugh and say, "Oh, don't worry about him. He's the creative one." Like that was a polite way of saying I was too slow for anything real. And my father would just shake his head. That slow, disappointing shake that said more than words ever could. The kind of look that crawls under your skin and lives there for years. I want you to stay with me right now, because what I'm about to tell you isn't a motivational speech. This is not a feel-good story I'm packaging up neatly for you. This is the truth of what it feels like to grow up being the family's greatest disappointment. And then one Tuesday afternoon, sitting alone in a glass-walled conference room, watch a $7 million check slide across a table toward you. Let me take you back. I grew up in a house where intelligence was measured in one currency: grades. My older brother Marcus had a 4.0 GPA from the age of 12. My sister Elena skipped a grade and went to college on a full academic scholarship. And then there was me, barely passing, staring out windows during class, drawing in the margins of my notebooks, building little contraptions in the garage out of broken appliances my dad threw away. I wasn't stupid, I know that now, but I didn't know it then, because nobody told me. Nobody stopped to say, "Hey, maybe this kid just thinks differently." Instead, they handed me the label and expected me to wear it for life. I remember one Thanksgiving, I was maybe 15. My uncle asked the table what everyone wanted to be when they grew up. Marcus said lawyer. Elena said surgeon. When it got to me, I said I wanted to build something, a company, something that helped people. And my dad laughed first. And when the head of the table laughs, everyone else follows. My mom patted my hand like I was a child who just said he wanted to be a dinosaur. "That's sweet, baby," she said, and the conversation moved on, like I hadn't spoken at all. That moment right there did something to me. It didn't break me, though it tried. It lit something. A small, stubborn, dangerous little fire that I kept hidden for years, because every time I let it show, someone poured water on it. I graduated high school with mediocre grades and a burning humiliation that I carried like a second backpack. I didn't get into the universities my brother and sister attended. I enrolled in a community college that my father referred to as the fallback for people without options. He said that at dinner, casually, like I wasn't sitting right there. I studied business, barely. I worked nights at a shipping warehouse to pay my own way because I refused to ask them for money that came with that look attached to it. And during the hours when I should have been sleeping, I was reading, not textbooks, real things. Business biographies, case studies, failures and comebacks. I was obsessed with how companies broke and how they were rebuilt. I was obsessed with the gap, the space between what people needed and what existed to serve them. And in that warehouse, surrounded by conveyor belts and the smell of cardboard and diesel, I noticed something. Every single night, shipments were mislabeled, misrouted, delayed. Not because of bad workers, because of broken communication between software systems that didn't talk to each other. Millions of dollars bleeding out of companies every year through a wound nobody was bothering to close. I saw it every single night, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. I dropped out of college in my second year. The phone call home was one of the worst moments of my life. My mother cried, not because she was worried about me. She cried because of what the neighbors would think. My father didn't cry. He went quiet in that specific way he had. And then he said 6 words that I have never forgotten. 6 words that I want you to really hear right now. He said, "I expected this from you. I expected this from you." I hung up the phone, sat on the edge of my bed, in my tiny rented room with its water-stained ceiling and its single window that faced a brick wall. And I made a decision. I decided I would never call home to report failure again. The next time I called home, it would be with something they couldn't laugh away. The next 3 years were brutal in a way that's hard to describe without making it sound cinematic. And I don't want to glamorize what was actually just lonely, grinding, terrifying work. I built a prototype of a logistics communication platform. Basically software that could sit between existing shipping systems and translate data between them so nothing got lost. I had no investors. I had no connections. I had a laptop, a library card, and a warehouse job that I talked my manager into letting me work around so I could make calls during business hours. I got rejected by 41 investors. I counted. 41. Some were polite. Some were dismissive. One told me, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, that I didn't have the educational pedigree to be taken seriously in the logistics tech space. I drove home from that meeting and sat in a parking lot for an hour. I'm not ashamed to tell you I cried, because rejection doesn't stop hurting just because you're used to it. It just stops surprising you. But investor number 42, a woman named Sandra Park who ran a small seed fund out of Chicago, she read my full pitch deck. Twice. She asked me questions that nobody else had asked, questions that dug into the actual mechanics of what I was building, and I answered every single one. At the end of our second meeting, she offered me a small seed round. Not much. Enough. Enough to hire one developer, secure a cloud server, and spend 4 months building the real version of what had only existed in my head. We launched quietly. A few small shipping companies, then a mid-size regional carrier. Then word spread in the way that word spreads when something actually solves a real problem, not from marketing, but from people grabbing colleagues by the arm and saying, "You have to see this." Within 18 months, we had contracts with 3 of the top 15 freight companies in the country. Within 2.5 years, we had processed over $4 billion in shipment data through our platform. I didn't call home during any of this. Not once. My sister called me on my birthday. She always did, even when things were cold between us and the family. I kept my answers short. I told her I was working. She told me Mom had been asking about me. I said that was nice. We hung up and I went back to a product meeting. I want to pause here and be honest with you about something, because I think it matters. There were moments, long, quiet, dark moments, where the success didn't feel like victory, where I'd close a big deal and sit alone afterward and feel almost nothing, because the people I had wanted to prove something to weren't watching. And part of me wondered if I was still just that 15-year-old kid at the Thanksgiving table screaming into a room that had already moved on without him. That feeling doesn't vanish just because your bank account changes. I need you to know that. But then came the acquisition conversation. A major enterprise software conglomerate, I won't say the name but you would know it, had been watching our growth for 8 months. Their VP of strategic acquisitions reached out through a mutual contact. We began a conversation that lasted 4 months, involved more lawyers than I'd ever been in a room with, and ended on a Tuesday in October in a glass-walled conference room on the 34th floor of a building in downtown Chicago. I was wearing a suit I'd bought 3 years earlier. It still fit. Barely. And across the table they slid a letter of intent for $7 million. $7 million for a platform that had started as an observation made in a warehouse at 2 a.m. by the family's dumb one. I kept my face completely still. I had practiced keeping my face still for that moment, because I knew if I let anything show, I'd fall apart entirely. I signed. We shook hands. I rode the elevator down alone. I walked outside into October air. And then I sat on a bench on a street corner in downtown Chicago and I let myself feel everything I had been holding since I was 15 years old. I called my sister first. I don't know why. Maybe because she was the only one who had kept calling on my birthday. She answered on the second ring, and I told her what had happened, and she screamed so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. And I was laughing and she was crying, and it was the first time in years that the family felt like something warm. Then I called my parents. My dad answered, and I told him. I kept it simple. I told him about the company. I told him about the acquisition. I told him the number. There was a silence on the other end that lasted so long I thought the call had dropped. And then my father said, "I had no idea." Not, "I'm proud of you." Not, "I'm sorry." Just, "I had no idea." My mother got on the phone, and she was crying and saying my name over and over, and I felt something I didn't expect. I felt sad, because the version of me that had needed this moment so desperately was a kid who just wanted his parents to see him. And that kid had waited a long time. And now the moment was here, and it couldn't undo all those dinners and all those looks and all those years of the slow headshake. It couldn't unring the bell, but it could, and this is the part that surprised me, it could start something new. My dad flew out to see me 2 months later. We had dinner at a restaurant I chose, and for the first time in my entire life, he asked me questions about my work and actually listened to the answers. Not to respond, to listen. He asked how I thought of the idea. He asked what the hardest part had been. He asked whether I had been scared. And when I said yes, he nodded like that meant something to him. Like he respected it. We didn't have a movie moment. There was no tearful apology. No dramatic reconciliation. Life isn't scripted that cleanly, and I'd be lying to you if I said otherwise. But something shifted. Something real and quiet and grown-up shifted between us. I tell you this story not to impress you. I need you to understand that. I'm telling you this because somewhere out there, right now, there is someone watching this video who has been handed a label they didn't choose. The slow one. The difficult one. The one who'll never amount to much. And that label has gotten into your bones in a way that's hard to explain to people who've never felt it. It follows you into rooms. It sits next to you at tables. It whispers in your ear right at the moment when you're about to try. And I want you to hear this from someone who lived inside that label for years. The people who handed it to you were not seeing you clearly. They were seeing their own limitations, their own definitions of what intelligence looks like, their own very small and very frightened version of what success is supposed to look like. The warehouse wasn't beneath me. The community college wasn't a punishment. The rejected investors weren't proof that I was wrong. Every single thing that looked like failure was actually the road, and the road only looks like a road in hindsight. While you're on it, it just looks like ground you're crawling across. You are not the dumb one. You are not the difficult one. You are not the one who'll never amount to much. You are the one who is still building in the dark when everyone else has gone to bed. And that stubborn, unglamorous, unwitnessed building, that is exactly where the extraordinary quietly begins. Keep building.